think 35 is a good number. Ishit?
Yeah. Uh, so is anyone else joining or just put it on the group?
Wait, is my voice low?
नहीं यार, your voice is very clear. एक बार इशित बोलियो फिर से.
Whose voice is low? Sorry.
I think इशित थोड़ा सा
Uh,
lag हो रहा है.
is it fine now?
हाँ, I think so. मतलब what about others?
Lag हो रहा है.
बहुत minor सा lag है. What about others? It's fine for me. You guys can put it on the chat.
So if just the voice is low, I can speak a bit louder. But if it's a lag, I'll have to connect to a different connection. So just let me know. Okay, so let me connect to some different network first.
Hmm. Any other
Acha, is
questions,
it fine now?
guys? Can you hear me, Ishit?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, okay, so super fine.
Cool, cool. Okay, so any other questions, guys? Okay, my voice is low. I can come a bit closer. Choose
So
one, guys.
please don't call sir.
Yeah, we'll start with the topics. Switch off my
Yeah,
video.
we'll just show everything in 2 minutes.
Low bandwidth issue. I don't think the bandwidth issue would be at my end. Thank you, Jagannath. Okay, so it's 34 now. Let's start with Ishit. You can access the VS Code, right? So let's start with it in
Yeah.
a minute then. We have 89 people over here right now. I'll start sharing my screen. Okay. Thanks, Prakhar. Ishit, can you see my screen up? You should be visible
Yeah,
now.
I can see it.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys. So let's start. It's 7:35 now. So basically, what the aim of this workshop, if we just have to like show you what the end product is going to be, we want you guys to be able to make something like the Google News website. So this website over here. Now, Google News has its own news aggregator, but we are not going to be doing the backend in this particular workshop. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be creating this web page, but using the Hacker News API. So both of these things, like creating the web page and the API itself, we'll cover in more detail as we go through the workshop. But this is what the end product ideally should be. Like you should then be comfortable with creating something like this in a relatively short time span using just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So yeah, let's move on. So Ishit, let's cover the agenda first.
Yeah. So, right, as you can see the agenda, first we'll just explain to you what exactly is web development, the different types of technologies or workarounds and everything you might be doing in development.
I think you lagged out over there.
XML, what's HTML, is it coding or is it not coding? Then we'll cover, for today, we'll cover the basic tags in HTML and the basic style attributes for CSS.
Okay, yeah.
And don't worry if you don't understand any of these right now, we'll be covering each and everything part as we go along.
Voice is not too clear. Whose voice, Meg?
Uh, I think it's mine.
Yeah, you lagged
Right.
over there for a bit.
Okay. Is it okay right now? Just let me know. Yeah, so what I just said was that I just listed out everything that you're seeing on screen, whatever we'll be doing. So we'll first be differentiating between front end and back end, how it contributes into web development. Then, as I said, we'll be covering only the front end part in this workshop. So don't worry about that. Then we'll be covering what's XML, HTML, and how is it not exactly coding, and then the only the basic tags of HTML and the basic stylings of CSS. And don't worry, yeah, we'll be explaining every term as we go along. This is just to give an overview of what we'll be doing over the next 4 days.
Right, so this is the agenda on the screen right now. It's just for today, by the way. So this is session one.
Yeah.
We'll be showing you the agenda for the session every day before we start. So let's start with the general information first. The client server terminology. And okay, somebody mentioned that they want to also be explain the API aggregator terminology. We'll be covering that as we go. It's not something which is very technical in sense, but we won't be doing that right now. So we'll be doing that when the part comes. So let's just go through what the basic, what web basically comprises of. So I think I should have, yeah. So is the diagram available? Is it visible?
Yeah, it's available to me, right?
Yeah. So yeah, what you can see over here is that these are the different like boxes just showing you how the web works. So in this you have the client, which is basically you guys or anybody who's doing anything on the web. The client can be an application, it can be the website, the web browser, whatever, right? The routing middleware is your internet service provider and the DNS and all of that. So DNS, uh, we'll cover that in time. Maybe not necessarily in this workshop because this is a front end workshop, but there's a lot of stuff which goes, which your request goes through or your web browser goes through before it actually reaches the server. So this is just signifying that part. Then we have the actual server. Now this server does a lot of stuff which you would not directly be exposed to, basically. That is the stuff over here. So you would not realize that there's load balancing, database, fintech service. The fintech service is basically the payment service, and like there's a lot of things which go on in the backend which you are not going to be exposed to, and this is why it's called the backend. So over here, this is the front end. This is the part that you guys are exposed to. The user is exposed to more appropriately, and the server is the part in which you are not actually exposed to exactly what's happening over here. The server only communicates with the front end to provide data, and the front end, the client, not just the front end, the client itself sends requests, which might be requests to do particular actions or request particular type of data or amount of data or anything. So if you talk about Facebook, when you open the app, what you look at is the front end, but all of those posts and all of those comments and everything, they're coming from the server. So when you open the app, you send a request to the server. So first of all, your request goes through the routing middleware, which is the internet service provider, if it's Airtel, Jio, whatever. And then it goes through a DNS lookup. The DNS lookup tells you exactly what IP address the server is at. Then the request goes to that IP address, the server basically. The server processes, does whatever it want, like checks if it's if you're looking for the comments of any particular post, if you're looking for your news feed or whatnot. The server checks what you're looking for. It processes exactly what it needs to process to get that information using whatever it's connected to, and then sends you back that information. And then your client shows you that information. That is, in a gist, what is happening for what every task that is like connecting through these, so connected through these services, whether you use Gmail, Facebook, whatnot. Okay, so any confusion over here right now? Like in app development, yeah, so in app development as well, the app you have, what you're looking at is the front end. Now over there, I mean, still the app itself is actually just the front end because all of that code is running on the client. So there's another way to call it, like it's client side code. Front end is also like, so all of these terms, they're not very, very well defined, but you can generally either think about front end as being what you look at on your screen or the code that runs on the client. Like in the case of your laptop, the client might be the Chrome browser, the Firefox browser, or the operating system itself, the PC itself. So you might also have Windows apps or exes. And in the case of Android devices, it might be again the Chrome browser or any other browser, or the apps being installed on Android itself. So the apps installed, they become the clients then instead of the browser. Okay, any doubts over here for now? This should be pretty simple, right? Okay, another thing, guys, if you have any doubts, do ask right now. We do not want this workshop to be wasting anybody's time. Do not worry if your peers will make fun or whatnot or whatever. You're here to learn. Just learn right now. You will get better. If you do not know, it does not matter. You will know later. So do not think about what the exact repercussions or whatnot might be right now in your social peers or whatever. Do not think about that stuff. Just ask your questions in the chat. If the questions are not going to be okay, short recap, fair enough. If the questions are not going to be something which the moderators over here Zoom is like a general question, like everybody might have that, then they would help you guys in the chat itself. Fine. So just one last recap. This is the client is basically whatever is running on your device, the app or the browser. The whatever the client is that sends the request to the server. Now to send it to the server, it passes through your internet service provider, then to the DNS network and DNS service, and from the DNS service lookup service, you get whatever IP address the server is at. Now that IP address is then used to send the request exactly to the server, right? So this just signifies everything in between. So from the client through whatever the infrastructure is to the server, then the server does whatever it needs to do to look at that request. If you're looking for Facebook requests and whatnot, DNS is domain name server. So domain name server. So it's the IP server. Every domain name has an IP server. And there's a huge repository which stores what IP server corresponds to every domain. So google.com has an IP server associated with it. Now that IP server is given to the clients using the DNS lookup service. Fine. Okay. Any doubts over here? If there are any doubts, we'll resolve them in the chat. Ishit, you want to take the next part?
Yeah, okay. So what I just wanted to say was going into a bit detail about front end and back end. As you said, the client side is called the front part of your development. So what exactly is front end? As you all are right now on Google Meet, so what is the contribution of front end? Everything you see that the chats that are being displayed, the styling of the page, coming of the displaying of the video and everything, basically the structure of the code, the structure of the website is called the front end. As you can see, the chats sorry. So what clear before?
What?
Is the voice clear now? Is the voice clear now?
It's better, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, there's a lag,
someone
I
is
believe.
Still saying no. Okay. Okay. If you can just wait 1 second, I'll just change my headphones and then we'll see. Okay.
All right, sure.
Yeah. Anand, can you take over till then?
Yeah,
Just
sure.
explaining what front end back end is. Yeah. Just give me 1 minute.
So, turning off your video may work. Sure, why not? Okay, so that's generally what the front and back end, whatever they mean. Ishit will be able to explain, maybe using the code or particular examples. After that, we're going to cover what XML, HTML, and attributes and properties. So, how many of you have like a basic understanding of what HTML, CSS are? Okay. Gaurav, there would not be any written material. This is so what we intend to do over here is you understand whatever we're doing right now. So since we're on Meet, we won't even actually be able to do proper picture in picture. So what we want you guys to do is understand what is happening right now, what we are doing right now. Then do whatever we do over here after this session. If you have any problems, go through that part of the video and see what was different and try to understand that. If you guys do not understand any particular part, you can email us, uh, and we'll try to resolve that over there. If there's any doubt which we think is going to be more generalized again, if we feel that something wasn't covered well enough, then we'll work through that in the next session. But just look at what we're doing over here. Just understand that we, like this year, we have a real problem that we can't do an actual code along workshop that we had every year. So that is definitely an issue. You can even message us on WhatsApp group. So that is an issue, but just do make sure that you apply whatever you like see us doing, working on right now, later on by yourself, so that you actually are able to understand how those attributes, properties, whatever we're going to do, can be changed just a bit, and they'll give you a proportional change in the code, or maybe a disproportional change as to what you think right now. So you might see some property will give you a very, very big change according to how the rest of the code works. So just keep experimenting with that, and then come to the next session, and hopefully it should work quite well. What software do we have to download? You don't have to download anything. You can even use Notepad, or anything that's a text editor, and just save it as a .html file or .css file. But we would suggest you use either VS Code or Sublime Text. So Sublime Text might be a bit smaller, but VS Code is generally the best code editor right now. Ishit, are you back?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to take over again?
Yeah, okay. So as I was saying, front end and back end. So I explained front end, and you can even see that Anant has opened Google News. So everything you're seeing there, the styling, the search bar, basically the structure of the website is called the front end. Now, as you can see, every single component, the news component there, has some different data. So that data is actually coming from the backend, since it's dynamic. Now, the backend consists of the database or calling to other services, which should not be done in the front end. That's why we try to keep the front end and the backend code as much as separated as possible.
Right. So an example of that would be you don't want to do the financial thing. Like, you don't want to check if the person has actually made a payment or not in the front end, because that
Exactly.
code is running on the client. Right, Ishit?
Yeah, exactly.
So
So
running
another
it,
example
yeah.
can be log in or log out. So you just want to enter your email and password in the front end. You don't want it to be checked if it's right or not in the front end. So as you know, anyone can access those. So you want the email and password to go to the backend, then get checked.
Right, yeah. So that's why it's a bit important. Okay, so somebody's saying zoom in a bit. Wait, all this is okay. So this isn't important though. So I'll just hide the Chrome window. So this is only the important part right now. So yeah. So if you're checking on the front end if the email or password is valid or not, then logically you will also have to have access to the actual existing email and passwords on the front end. And then anybody on the client device can look at those email and password combinations. So that's not very secure.
Exactly.
So that's why there's a very neat distinction that you have to have in front end and back end. And there are very huge security implications if you do not design the website or the web app or the app well enough. So those are things you do get used to in time. Okay, so let's move ahead to XML, HTML, or do you want to add anything, Ishit?
No, yeah, sure, go ahead.
All right, so XML, HTML. So wait a sec. Right. So now we actually begin with what HTML, CSS, and what all of that is. So one thing you guys should now understand, let me bring back Chrome. So over here, what you see over here isn't actually code, right? What is code and is this code? So this UI, the user interface being built over here, most of it is not code. This is HTML and CSS. HTML, the full form is Hypertext Markup Language, and CSS, the full form is Cascading Style Sheets. So wait, let me just open the, okay, not this. Yeah. So HTML, the full form is Hypertext Markup, and CSS is Cascading Style Sheets. Fine. So what do these things mean? So a markup language isn't actually a programming language, and style sheets, again, they're not, like, nothing in this name or nothing in these terms would signify that these are programming languages. Programming languages require you to tell the machine what exactly to do. HTML and CSS are not, sorry, programming languages are basically, so they're basically instructions. You tell the machine what to do. So they are in the form of instructions. HTML and CSS are not exactly instructions. Instead, they are just, say, they're just data. Now, what do you mean by data? Like, if I tell you that you have to draw an elephant, you'll draw whatever your interpretation of an elephant is. If I tell you exactly how to draw an elephant, by telling you the exact stroke and like everything down to the smallest detail, then I'm giving you a very precise instruction, not just the data. I'm telling you exactly how to draw an elephant. But if I just tell you to draw an elephant, I'm telling you to draw your interpretation of an elephant. That's exactly what's happening over here. In the sense, like, if there used to be there used to be a time where a website would have looked different in Chrome and Firefox and Safari, and Internet Explorer still shows most websites very differently than other browsers. So definitely do not use Internet Explorer for one. But that is basically what's happening over here. So the server is giving the browser data on what the server wants to be shown, and it's up to the browser to render that data according to its standards. Now, most websites will look similar to on all major browsers now because of how standardized the web has become. There are very precise standards and very well described standards as to what an element will look like as described in HTML. So now most of it will look similar in most browsers. So that problem has been eradicated now, but it's still data. It's not instructions. So if I show you guys what it would look like, so we have this. So many of you would have done this before. You might not know exactly what it is. You're not looking at the source code over here. This is, you're looking at just the HTML. It's not anything anyone wants to hide from you because it's being sent to your client. You can have a look at it, inspect and all. Yeah. So what I'm doing is for people on Windows, you can click Ctrl Shift and I at the same time, or you can double click over here, right click over here and do inspect. Right. So this gives you this window, and you can check out the HTML over here. This is just data. The browser has to interpret what this data would look like to make this over here. Right. So now understanding HTML, for like, even if you have some understanding of HTML, to actually understand what a markup language is and then understand HTML, let's look at some XML. So I have a empty file over here. This is an XML file. So an XML file is a markup file. It's the most basic type of markup you can have. HTML is a more advanced version of XML. You can say, but it's not actually advanced per se, but it's more standardized as to what tags you're going to use. Now, what is a tag? So this is a tag. So if I say school, now this is a tag, and I can close that tag. So this is an opening tag. Yeah, XML is used now. So XML. So okay, so let me explain what they are. So zoom in just a bit more. So markup language as its at its most basic usage is just used to convey data. What XML is, it's not conveying any particular type of data. You can convey any type of data through XML. So I'm not exactly sure what the full form is, but if I look for the full form, it will say something of the sort. Sorry. Okay. My internet isn't working very well. Extensible markup language. Yeah. So what extensible basically means is you can use it for anything, right? So what I'm defining over here is I'm defining a school, and now I can give it some children. So I can say, so if I do this, I basically added kind of like, if I had to interpret it, I would say that I added a student to the school. I could add more students to the school. So this is how I would interpret what is happening over here. Now I could do anything. So at the end of the day, it's going to be how I interpret what this means. But this is basically just the most basic type of markup that can exist. What I can also do is I can do strength. Element. I can say that the strength is, let's say, the strength of the school is 20. I can give the student a name. We can call him Ishit. So now we have a school which has a strength of 20. And then there are two students, one of whom is named Ishit. Now this is all the information that I'm conveying through this code. And it's up to me or whoever I give this XML to interpret what this XML means. They'll have to know how I'm formatting the XML. So that's just it. It's just data. It's just information being conveyed. Markup is nothing else. Markup is not code. Now, how many do not, yeah. Now, how many do not understand this part right now? Do ask in the chat, right? Because this is the general base of what web development is. If you do not understand this or like begin to understand this, try to understand this, you're not going to understand anything else. How do they know what student means? We're going to have to tell them before we give them this information. So anybody who I give this XML to, I'd have to first tell, okay, so this is going to be the format of an XML, of the XML that I provide you. It's the outermost tag is going to be the school tag. Then it's going to have a strength. Now the person will know that there'll be a strength or that there may be a strength. And then they'll check what the strength is. Now, see, again, your question is very right over here in the sense that how do they know what student means? They don't. That's why when you're creating a system, so XML, you're not actually going to send it to any person before telling them what the XML means. So before you create any system, so if you have a backend server and if you have a front-end app, you coded or a team coded both the things, right? So you're going to have to tell the front-end server that my backend server is going to send in this information using the XML format, and these are what the possible tags can be, and this is how it can be formatted, and you have to interpret that information. So once there is that understanding, only then it makes sense to use XML. Don't we have to declare HTML for XML2? No. So HTML, what you're mentioning is a special HTML tag. So HTML is a specialization of XML. Just a sec. So, Sanskar, can you send the link for this session to Siddharth Bodawala? He's asking for the link. Right. So, extensible XML, extensible markup language, it's just information. Now, we actually will begin with HTML if nobody has an issue right now. So, they have libraries with defined terms. How does in HTML the computer knows what head or body tags mean? No, we don't have any. So Ananya is right on the money over here. We don't have any standard tags in XML. XML is, like look at the what the full form says. Extensible markup language. No, XML is not any sort of an engine. It's just a way to format data. Right. It's just a way to write data. Now you could also like one other way to signify this could be school, and then you do tab, and then you add a student. So just because school starts from away from like the leftmost point, and then student starts from away, you could say that it's a student, and I could give it a name, Ishit. Now to interpret this data, the person will have to know how I have formatted. The person will have to know what being formatted like this means, or what having a tab before it in the line means. Yeah, it's all user defined. So yeah, it's not predefined in XML. Nothing is predefined, right? So this could have been another type of format, but then again, my co-programmer or whoever would have been creating the front end would have had to know how I would have been sending the data and exactly what my format means, so that they would then be able to get that data and understand in the code what it means, right? But XML is just a standard form to send the data through. It's not doing anything particularly. XML is just sending data. Okay, now let's move on from here a bit. I think just doing XML and not doing HTML is confusing you guys just a bit. XML will not create the web page you see over here. You'll have to use HTML for that. Now let's go to HTML. Yeah. Ishit, you want to start HTML?
Yeah.
I'll just be
Okay,
back in
sure.
a bit.
So as Anand mentioned, in any markup language, there is always one main parent tag. So as you saw in the example, the parent tag was school, right? The main parent tag is HTML, obviously. So we can just write HTML and then close it. And inside this is whatever we want to put to create our web page, right? Now in VS Code, there is this neat shortcut where you can just uh, type in exclamation mark and just press sorry.
So if I
The
do it,
screen was, yeah.
so exclamation mark, and if I do
Yeah.
an exclamation mark, we're using. I'm not sure if you need to download an extension for this, but
No.
probably the HTML extension. Okay, then no. And when you do this in in a .html file and enter, it'll do this. Now, Ishit.
Yeah. Now the basic HTML format that you need to create a web page is already there. Now I'm not going to save this right now. What I'm going to do is you can see that HTML is the main parent tag. The first line says doctype HTML is just conveying to the web page, to the browser, that this is an HTML file and we want it to render as an HTML web page, right? Next is the head tag, which basically contains all the description and the basic information about your web page, right? So for example, you can see the title here is given as document. Anit, if you can open up the this file, I
Yeah,
can
just a
actually
sec.
show this changing.
Sure. So it's gonna be at. Uh, Wait a sec. Let me just. Yeah. So this is the file.
Right. So this is the file. It's obviously empty right now, but in the top corner of Anand, can you focus on that on the browser?
Mm-hmm.
The title of the web page, the document. Yeah, right. So you can see that this is named document. I can just rename it to web,
So
let's
just
say
a
web
sec.
development workshop, and I
Let me
saved
just
it.
close this window. Just a sec.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I reload this now, you'll see that the title changed over there. So just to uh, clarify a couple of questions in the chat, XML is a very, very generalized way of sending information. HTML is these specific tags. Now, it's a subset of XML. It's HTML is using XML in a way, and you have these special tags that convey special information. So to use HTML, you don't have to tell the web browser exactly what tags you're going to use because they have already been standardized on. So that's why we use HTML over XML over here, because there's a particular way of doing things using particular tags. That's the only difference between XML and HTML. That in XML, this would not have been interpreted as that web page. The browser would have just interpreted as data. For XML, it is checking what the exact tags. HTML, it is checking what the exact tags are over here, and it is trying to render that as the web page over here. Sorry, Ishit, you can continue.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So as I explained about the head tag just contains the basic information about the web page without really displaying whatever on the data on the web page. Now the displaying of the data is done in the body tag, right? So the basically the body of the web page. Now I can write anything in here like this web page, and if Anand, can you just reload the page? Then you'll see that this particular line can be seen on the web page, right? So this is just the body of the web page, which contains other HTML tags, for example, div and paragraph tag or spine tags, which we'll be covering as right now only. So here is where you put all the tags and everything about the website.
Right. So again, so recapping, the head gives you information about the web page. So just like XML, it's just giving the browser information about the web page, and the body tells you what goes in on the browser window, what it has to display. Right. So moving forward, Ishit, what's next?
Right. So to explain the right. So the in the body you can obviously put in many different tags that are predefined. One of the main ones is called a div. So you can just type in div, and what is happening is it's automatically getting closed because VS Code has this function that if you open up a tag in VS Code, it closes automatically. For example, I can just type another tag. This is just an example. This is not predefined. So as Anand says, student. See, it just got automatically closed. Right.
So
So
I do
let
believe
me
it's
just go
using
back.
the HTML extension over here, whatever the default extension
Yeah,
we
it's
install
already
whenever.
pre-installed in VS Code. You don't need to
Yeah.
install anything
Or I think when we open
extensionally.
an HTML file, it will suggest what the extension exactly is.
Right. So
So yeah,
Anand, do you want to explain the different tags or what?
yeah, sure. So let's
Okay.
also cover the basics of CSS and then move forward, because then we can also talk about what the styling of these tags is. Right. So we covered what HTML is. How many people have any kind of an issue with HTML? Just send those issues in the chat and we'll sort those out over there. If you have like any doubts or anything, just put them over there. We can wait for like a minute or so.
Yeah.
How do I open the index.html? So as you can see over here, I have used this location of the file on my computer and with the file protocol. So I've given it file and whatever the location of that file is on my computer. Use of meta tag. Meta is supposed to give you information about the web page. Like, so this is one example. There can be other examples, like if you give the whatever the description of the web page is, so that search engines can show the description in the search results. Doc type is just signifying what type of file it is. So this means that it is an HTML5 file. If this would not have been there, it had something to signify if it is an HTML3 or HTML4 file, because those, like, the standard keeps updating.
Yeah, Palak. So till now we haven't used any exclusive or basically any other extension that you might have to install. These are already pre-installed in VS Code. You don't have to do anything. If we do use any of the extensions, we'll obviously list them out for you.
Yeah, I don't think I have any particular extension installed. I can still check quickly. So yeah, it doesn't look like we have any extension for particularly for web installed. No, so we don't have any extension installed. So any other doubts? Okay, so we'll move on. So we just saw what HTML is and how, like, what you do over here changes the actual web page over here. But now if you go to CSS, so we mentioned HTML and then we mentioned CSS. So cascading style sheets. I closed V3 Schools. So V3 Schools is, in my opinion, the absolutely best resource to use when you are starting web development. You can learn HTML, CSS on your own from over there, or you can look up the references at least to understand. It's not necessary right now, Santosh, but we'll be showing you exactly what the use is. For the HTML files we are creating right now, it's definitely not necessary. But we'll explain later what the exact differences are. So yeah, so this is HTML, learn CSS. So CSS is how this stuff basically, so HTML over here and CSS. So let's take this text, for example. If I just had this text in HTML, it would not be this big, or it would not be bold. If it's bold, if it's like, if the font weight is any different, or it would not use this particular font face, if it would use whatever the default font on my browser would be. All these visual changes we do through CSS. Right. So you can use these references as well to learn in your own time. There are some things that are not very well explained anywhere on the web, so that's why we are conducting these, because a lot of references are just not updated enough to be working well with HTML5 and CSS3. But to get a basic understanding, you can use W3 Schools. In my opinion, it's one of the best. So coming back to our web page, so what I can do over here is I can open a tag. Now this is a special tag. This does not create anything on this web page. Now, so this part, this white part, which you see, which is a part of the web page, is called the viewport. The tag that I'm going to use over here does not show anything itself on the viewport. So this is the style tag. Now, if you connect the dots and check the names, then this is something related to CSS, because that's cascading style sheets. And that would be right, because I can type out CSS right in the HTML file, which I'll do just to show you guys right now. Right, so what I can now do is, we have the body tag. I'll say the body. Now I'm referring to an element, the body element. I've opened the curly braces and I'll give it a property. So over here, these are the CSS property. One of the properties is the background property. I can say that it should have a background of black. Now, if I save this And if I reload the page, the whole of the web page becomes black. Right. So that's the body tag. The body tag is like whatever you see over here. So the body tag makes sense to be just as big as the web page. And we made the background of the whole web page black in a sense. Now, if I do this on HTML instead of the body tag, it'll still be black because HTML is it's itself a parent of the body tag. So it's bigger than the body tag in a sense, right? It's actually exactly the same size, not bigger, but exactly the same size. So doing that is the same as putting it on the body tag. Now, since Ishit has already put a div over here, let's style the div instead. And this will actually help show you guys some properties about the divs and other elements that we're going to use later on how these properties are already applied, some default properties, and how we'll change those properties to show what we want to show. If I apply it to the div, and if I reload, nothing happens. Do we need to type? No, you do not need to type a semicolon after HTML. The semicolon right now, it's just going to be used in CSS. Later on, it's also going to be used in JavaScript, but we're not doing JavaScript for today. So let's focus on the CSS part. Now, I gave the div a background of black, but there's no black part available over here. There's nothing black in this web page. What's happening? Anybody take a guess? I mean, some of you would already know. So somebody tell me what's
Right.
happening over
Till
here.
then, Sayyam asked, what is div? So div is basically just a predefined tag in HTML, right? So in there you can define or type out any of your content that you want in your web page. Further along, we'll actually tell you what properties does div have and how is it different from other predefined tags.
Yeah, so it's a division. So the full form of div will be division. So no, Ariman, you're
Yeah.
wrong over there. So if I reload, nothing happens. But Santosh is right. Dimensions of the div is 0. Dimensions meaning the width and the height of the div are 0. The div does not have any existence, like everything's 0. So it does not have any size. Size is 0. Anybody answer the meta thing on the chat itself? So yeah, it has no content. Because it has no content, that's why it does not appear over here. So if I change the background or did anything, the div would still not appear. What I will have to do is I will have to give it a defined width, or in this sense, let's give it first a defined height. Right, so let me give it a height of 60 pixels. Now I only gave it a height, but it automatically covered the entire width, or at least the part that it is covering right now, not the entire width. The white part, why it's not covering the entire width, we'll talk about a bit later. But why is it covering just the part that it is? Anybody like? Okay, so let's not do this again and again, I guess. So Ishit just clarified that div is a special tag that conveys like some information to the web page. So it's a predefined tag. Why is it predefined? If you can use any tag, if you can use anything, then why do we have any predefined tags? Why do we have like this many or many more than these tags? That's because div has some styling associated with it before we even start adding any additional styling. So what div already has is display block. And this display block property is the property that makes it take the whole width. Like if I resize it, it'll still take the whole width. So we now come to another property. So we just did height, we just did background. And now the display property is already actually applied on the div. So if I remove the display property, nothing's going to happen. But if I now make it an inline block, now I'll cover what these values mean over here in just a second. Don't we need to put div in It is like,
It is in there.
yeah, the signs are there. So if I give it an inline block, see what happens. Again, like the div doesn't exist again, because now I will also have to give it a width. Now we'll cover these just in 1 second. So if I give it a width of 50 pixels, so this is a block of 50 pixels by 60 pixels. Now let's first check what we mentioned at the end over there, because we like sort of came to the box model pretty quickly. We'll come to the other properties in a while. So Ishit, do you want to take this, or actually it's the
Yeah, I think you should just explain what the box model.
okay, fine. So let's like move this
Okay, till then,
aside a bit.
Ujjwal, the div which is inside the style is just basically a selector of the div. Now, as Anand said, in the style tags, the none of the content is displayed on the web page. So, in the style tag is a tag, but the content inside isn't HTML. It's just cascading styling. So we don't exactly need to put in the braces there.
So okay, so coming to the box model, there are two types of properties as we just saw for display. There are two types of values for the display property. At least the ones we covered right now. One is inline block, and the other one is block. There are more as well. So there's inline, and those are the three we're going to focus on right now. So we're not going to focus on the others, at least for today. So an inline block, a block, and an inline. So this is, we can't say if this is an inline block or a block, but it's either of the two. It can't be inline. So what is inline? So that's basically it. That's like, this is inline because it's taking just as much space as the text would have it take, as its content, or like still as its text would have it take. I can't define a specific width or height or give it any padding or border or anything, because it's just text. Okay, so that's basically what inline is. It's just elements taking as much text, in this case taking as much space as they need to, and then minimizing that space. Now block and inline block, the block is taking, like if this is a web page and if I have a block, if say this is the block, I'll just change the color. So the block element will take the whole width of the web page. Now if this did not have any height, this will take 0 height, but it's still taking the whole width. It's not taking actually any space because it's taking width, the whole width into 0 space, but it's still trying to cover the whole width regardless of what its height is. That is what display block does. Okay, and that we'll come to that in just a bit. And if we have like an inline block, it will take whatever space it needs to take, or whatever space we give it. Right. So an inline block element, if I have like, if I make this text, if I put it in say a div, and I make the div inline block, so it will take just this much width, just as much as required to actually contain the text, but it'll still have width and a height. Right. So I'll be able to check the width and the height of the inline block, but I can't check the width and the height of the text element itself. Right. Because like, just by going by the terms themselves, a block is something that does have these two dimensions. Ishit, can you unselect?
Yeah.
And a block has these two dimensions, the x and y dimensions. The inline is just like text. It can take whatever space it needs to, right? So that's just something that you have to remember and that you have to get used to. There's no particular reason, like you could have also called this a box, inline box, or just box, but there's no particular reason to why these are called exactly what they're called. they just give the web page particular information about what the display property of this element is and what like how to render it and stuff. Right. So that's the inline block, and inline. So we'll also cover it over here. So other properties are, so properties for this are block, inline, block, or inline. The ones we are covering right now, there are more advanced ones. We'll suggest you check them out yourself later on, not right now. We'll see if we'll actually cover a couple more in this workshop as well. So that is the display property. And this is like the basics of what CSS does. It gives you the power to whatever you create with HTML to style that, to style those elements. So when you give the web page the HTML, it creates these blocks, like these elements, what we call them, and then you get to style these elements. Over here, this part is called the selector. So right now I'm giving the styling to all divs that would exist in this document. So if I were to copy this twice and reload the page, I'll have two more divs with the same styling. So this styling is being applied to all div elements. Because that's like, so yeah, you can see it now. So it's a left to right orientation. If I change the orientation, the text orientation, it will these will start coming from the right instead. So I've never actually tried that. Let me actually, okay, so we can actually try that, I guess. So if I just do text direction, is there a direction? Direction, yeah, left. Right now the default is left to right. If I do a right to left, they'll start coming from the right. So how to give each a different color? Now that's like just doing CSS. So I can do div. Okay, so let's first use classes and IDs and stuff first, and then we'll go a bit more advanced. So Ishil, you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. So just I wanted to convey was like as Anand said, there are different display properties for different elements there, and you can even define them yourself. For example, he made the display property of a div into an inline block. Right now, currently before there weren't three divs, so we couldn't exactly show them. But now what I can do is just comment out the display property. Just 1 second. Right. And now div has its predefined display property, which is block. And now you can see that they won't be beside each other, except they will be in a row. Sorry. And can you reload the
I'll
page?
reload. Just a sec. Yeah.
Right. So now you can see
Wait,
that
you'll have to remove the width.
no, that's fine. That's actually coming because there isn't any margin. That's fine. We don't need to worry. So you can see there are three divs exactly on the web page, and they aren't coming side by side as before, because it's obviously a block property, and the block property takes the whole width of the web page. Right, exactly. So you can see that each div take whole of the web page, the whole width of the web page. Now, other than divs, we also have many different tags. For example, one of them is called a span. Now, span has a predefined display property of inline, right? So if I give two spans here, and the content in one is hey, and the content in second would be just there, right? So now when Anand refreshes the page, you can see that both are different tags, but they're in the same line, because span is by default has a display of inline, which takes the width of only the content which is present in there, right? So that's span for you, and you can obviously change the display of that by selecting it in the CSS and giving it a display of block. See, now they're in two different lines, right? So other than div and span, we also have a tag called P. Now P defines as a paragraph tag, as a paragraph text. Now, for example, this is exactly like div. We don't the default display of this is block. So what is this used for? This is used for displaying the written content of your web page. For example, I use hey there. So I can just type this is a sorry. Right. So I just said this is a paragraph text. And if I copy it down, and then we see it will obviously be in a different line because the default display of a paragraph tag is block. So why do we use the paragraph tag instead of the div tag? Now, as someone mentioned in the chat box and also Anand mentioned is div is short for division. So it divides a web page into a division which can be used for other properties. So what is generally done? We can have these two spans in one div, right? Sorry. And so now this is a division of your web page which includes two span tags. All right, and okay, someone asked to explain differentiate between the inline block and stuff. So yeah, Siddharth can do it in the text in the chat box. And yeah, thank you, Santosh. This is used to comment out the tags. What you can do is simply select your text in VS Code, and you can press in Windows, you can press Control and / to comment out a tag. Right.
So commenting out
uh,
basically tells the browser to not show whatever is in the comment on the web page. That's it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
can we also help Ujjwal over? His question is, okay, so Ujjwal's question has been answered. Right,
Yeah.
right. Fine. There was another question. Yeah, Mehtab's question. Can you explain again why the blacks weren't in line like earlier? Like, why weren't they actually
The
taking the whole
blocks.
space?
Yeah, so I think Siddharth will be doing that only to differentiate between inline block and inline block.
All right, yeah. So just one, no. So in that sense, what I think he's talking about is when we had these divs over here, and I save this. So why not? Why they not taking the whole width? So if I'm right, if we just explain this shortly,
Yeah.
what they're actually doing this is they are taking the whole width, but since we have given them a specified width as well, they are in essence they're not making themselves as big, but they are reserving the whole width. So if I just show you guys, so if I show you the div, so the div is actually taking the space, the only the 50 pixel width, but the rest of the width of the web page on its line is used as a margin, so nothing else can occupy that space either. So that's what the div is using. Because it's a display block, it does not want anything else on its line. But if we have given it a width, it is going to have to be limited to that width, but the rest of the space will be used as a margin so that nothing else can coexist with it on its line, is at least. Moving on. Ishit?
Right. So the next tag I wanted to talk about is called an anchor tag. Right. So you just write it as an A and close it up. And for now, I'm just going to write it out. So I'm going to type out Google here. And in the web browser, you can just reload, Anand?
Yeah, just a sec. So,
Right.
we need to add
So
the href.
yeah, just 1 second. So for explaining anchor tag, what it does is this is basically like a link tag. right? So it can link a specific part of your web page. For example, I give Google that link to route to change the link of your web page to some other link. So that is done by a property in this tag called href, right?
An
And you
attribute.
can attribute, sorry, an attribute called href. Now I'll give this attribute to be google.com. Sorry, www.google.com. Is it saved? Yeah. So
Uh,
Anand
Ishit,
can
there's
show
some
you that.
problem with the audio.
Hello.
There's some minor issues with the audio, at least for me.
Uh, okay. Is it okay right now?
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay, sorry. I think the mic was a bit distant. So, right. So I just saved, I gave this anchor tag an attribute of href with the value www.google.com. Right. So now, as you can see on Anand's screen, the styling has been given to Google. Now, this is the default styling of an anchor tag in which it gives it a color and the underline. Right. So now, if you press on Google, it will actually take you to the web page of Google.
Oh, you did not add HTTP.
Oh, right. Sorry.
So it was trying to check for www.google.com on my file system itself. So that file does not exist. So that's why the file was not found. Now, if I reload it and if I click on Google, now it takes me to
Right.
Google. Yeah.
So it links you to the Google website. So exactly like span, the default display of an anchor tag is an inline. So I can actually copy this down and say YouTube. Sorry, YouTube. And you'll be able to see that Google and YouTube, both these anchor tags appear side by side.
Just a sec,
Uh,
sorry. Yeah.
yeah. So these both appear side by side, and you can actually click on them and go to the web page. Now, what uh, is generated and what we like to do is, as you can see, the default styling of an anchor tag good, right? So we just come to the styling of the web page and select our anchor tag, open up the curly braces, and there is now we're introducing another property in the stylings, which is called color. What this does is it manages the color of your text, right? So right now I'll give the color of, say, green, and if I save this, and then you can see in the web page the color of both the anchor tags turns to green. uh, yeah, and you can take
Yeah,
up
yeah.
it now.
Okay, sure. What are the other tags and properties we want to cover? Okay.
Yeah, so you will, and
Sure. So, a couple things. Somebody mentioned like how do we give different divs and different spans, different colors or different properties. So we do that using two things: classes and IDs. So if I just describe them over here, classes are a group of similar elements. ID refer to one particular unique element. So a class is like if I say I want to take the CSE students from the batch of 2022. So that says I want a particular class of people. An ID would be if I want to just talk to Ishit Beswal. So I'm referring to one particular person. So please explain how it turned green. Uh, Siddharth, can you do that in the chat? The classes and the IDs back. So what we do using classes and IDs is I can go where I can give this div a class of, so this is an attribute. I'm giving it a class attribute. I can say this div it will belong to the class of blue. And this div will also belong to the class of blue. And now I'll keep this as it is. I'll open another div. I'll put a dot over there and put blue over here. So this is, so we talked about selectors for a bit. So CSS selectors give you the ability to refer to one or more elements. What I'm doing over here is I'm selecting all div tags with the class name blue. Right, so all div tags with the class name blue using this dot over here. I can keep adding other class names. So if I add a red class name, so now this will check for div tags with both these class names, not one of these, but both these class names. So I can keep chaining these things, right? So now what I'll do is I'll make the background of these blue. So again, to check this again. So we have two divs with class blue and one div with that does not have a class of blue. And then we have another div that again does not have a class of blue. So we have 5 divs in total, 3 with blue and 2 with class blue and 2 with no classes at all. If I go over here, so now you can see these 2 divs and 2 divs over here. So the top 2 divs have the class blue and they have been given the background blue and all the other properties from the original selector as well. So first these properties are applied and then these properties are applied, because like that's the way we define them. But if I also had to, like, if we have a height over here and if I also give a height over here, so if I want to make these say 100 pixel high long, both of them at least 100 pixel long, so now these became longer, just the blue ones. So this property overrides this property over here because 2 reasons. First of all, it's defined after that property, but it's also more specific. The selector over here is more specific in nature. So over here we were just referring to all div elements. Right now we're referring to all div elements with the class name blue. So this selector is more specific. Now you can check up CSS selectivity online. There's more to it. You might get confused right now, so we'll suggest that you go through that stuff at the very end, but it is definitely worth having a look at. Selectivity can be the problem behind a lot of bugs that you might encounter. So that's something CSS selector, like how the selectivity changes by using different classes, IDs and modifiers, that definitely is worth a look. Now, so that was a class. Now, if I just change both of this to an ID, now we have 2 elements with ID blue, and I'll change this from a dot to a hashtag pound tag. So this says that if I'm selecting the div element, the one div element that has the ID blue. Now see what happens over here. I still have 2 div elements with the ID blue. If I reload the page, nothing actually happens. That's because it's actually applying it to both of them. This behavior, okay, so yeah, I remember last time also when I was doing this behavior originally did not work like this. How it used to work is that this property would only be applied to the first element that has the ID blue, and the next element that has the ID blue will just be ignored, because the ID is supposed to be unique. It's not supposed to be that multiple elements can have it, but it so appears that like multiple elements can have it now. So ID and classes now then do definitely become interchangeable. But there is still one difference. So let's do something else as well. So I'll change this back to div with a class of blue. So there is one glaring difference why you would prefer to use an ID in this case. Let's make this tall. So I'll remove the background property from over here. and I'll remove the height property from over here. So now we have two different classes for div elements. One says that the background will become blue, and the other one says that the height will become 100 pixels, which is more than the default height over here. No, what happens, Satvik, is that for classes and IDs, both the styling from both, like all matching identifiers will be used. ID will generally take preference over classes because it's supposed to be unique, right? So there's still that. So again, just to like show you guys something, change this. I'll keep this one just at blue and keep this one at blue and tall. Now, just have a look again at what's happening over here. We have this div structure, two divs, one with blue class and one with blue class, space tall class. So right now I'm giving two classes. This is not something you can give to the ID attribute. The ID attribute will only take one property. So if I change this to ID, it will only take the blue property from over and it will ignore whatever is from the space and onwards. So we'll demonstrate that in a bit too. But what happens over here is we have these styling. So this element should take just the background of blue, and this element should also become a little taller. In this case, it might actually be a little bit confusing because they are conjoined. You can't actually differentiate where one, like separate where one ends and the other starts. So I'm also going to give this one a margin of bottom, just to show you guys where they separate. Reload. And then you'll see what's happening. So one of this div just has the class blue and it's taking these properties. It's taking a background of blue with the original height and a margin bottom of 10 pixels. So the margin of 10 pixels. The space between it and the next element is 10 pixels vertically because it's margin bottom. The div tall would have given it a height of 100 pixels. So that's what's happening over here. This element has the blue class as well and the tall class. So it also has a background of blue. It also has a margin bottom of 10 pixels. You can see the space over there. But now it also has this height. So that is why you would use a class against an ID because you cannot. So even to demonstrate that as well. Let's hope this did not change when I was doing other stuff. So I'm trying out the same thing I did with the class, but with the ID. See, that did not work well. Now, that did not work well for whatever reason. If I remove the tall over, it should at least show, I guess. Yeah, it's showing. But if I include the tall, it's not even showing because the ID over here, it's not valid. So this ID is invalid. Because of this, that element itself is invalid. If I remove the space, it is valid, but now it's blue tail. So it'll show, but it'll show black. Oh yeah, sorry. Oh wait. So that's what was happening because the ID was invalid. It wasn't even taking the properties of blue. So it's a black box. You can see over there. Right. So those are basically like any doubts still here? Some of that stuff got a little bit confusing. Any doubts? Dhruv, Sahu, we will be getting assignments after every session. Maybe not after this one session because it's an introductory session. So we haven't actually created anything which would contribute to the final project. So maybe not right after this one session, but we will have assignments after every session. Any issues till now? So if there is a space between an ID, then that ID will become invalid. Yeah, that ID will become invalid, as you can see over here. So it's just a black box. So if I take this margin bottom and give it to every element, so all these should also have a margin bottom. You can see that there are 4 boxes right now. So the top black box, this black box is actually this box. Because we have a space over here, the ID is invalid. It won't take blue or tall. That's why it's not taking the styling from any element over here. Just the ID has become invalid, not the whole element, as I previously said by mistake. So just the ID has become invalid. That's why it's not taking any properties over here. If I had any other class mentioned over here which was valid, say anything, literally anything, and if I give this a height of 120 pixel, this will, I believe, still be applied. Yeah, because the ID became invalid, not not the whole element. So it's still taking the properties from this class, but it's not, it can't compute whatever ID it has because this is invalid. Okay. So doubts? Ishit, what do you say? Should we keep this class till here, this session? Actually, we can go
Sure.
through these as well. You can go. You want to go through these? ULOL and LI?
Uh, I don't think so. We should go through the UL and the other list because the default styling of them is also a bit to explain. What we
Right.
can go through is actually the two font properties, or basically three. We can also include font weight because that is a small thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So let me just do that.
Sure.
Just 1 second. Yeah,
So
okay.
we can remove all of
So
this from over here, clutter.
yeah,
So yeah, you can go ahead now.
right. So as you can see, we have provided two paragraph text uh, over here. Now what I'm going to do is give a class to each of them. One I'm going to give as font size, and the other I'm going to type it as font weight, right? These are just class names. These don't define anything in the HTML. What I'm going to do is go here in the styling and select those classes. For first, like I'm going to use font size. Now, what I'm going to do is introduce a new property called font, sorry, font size in the CSS, right? So what you can do is just type out font size and give the specific size of your. By default, most of the web browsers use 16 pixels as the font size, but you can obviously manage them through here. So I'm selecting the first paragraph text here, tag here. I'm going to give it a font size of say 48 pixels, right? And now when we save this and reload the web page, you can see that the font size of the text becomes 48 pixels, right? Now
Ishit, can't hear you.
wait, sorry.
Right, right. I couldn't hear you.
Okay, is it okay now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm going to select the class of font weight and introduce the next property, which is obviously called font weight. So what you can do is just type out font weight, and what this does is it gives you actually nine different values to choose from,
So
100 to
I can
900.
show them. Yeah, you can look at the properties over here.
Yeah, you can look at the properties. You are getting 100 through 900 in the multiples of 100, and you're also getting some default properties which are bold, bolder, lighter. These are just name tags for the integer value, right? So you can obviously give any one of them. For example, by default, the text has the font weight of 400. Now I'm going to give it a font weight of say 900, which is extra bold. So when we reload the page, you can see the second paragraph text would get bolder, right? Similarly, you can give it a font weight of 100 and it actually becomes super light. So yeah, that's about it for
Okay,
font weight.
so there is
Yeah.
one thing over here. So this did not become super light because some like the fonts might
Mhm.
sometimes support certain font sizes, font weights. So some of them might support 100, some of them might not support 100. So similarly, some of them might support 500, some of them might not support 500. So you can see that it did not change when I changed it from 100 to 500. So that's also one thing. Also depends on what the font you're using, if it supports it or not. But 800 and 700, they are generally supported as bold. Yeah, sorry.
Right. Exactly. So now, as you said, the font doesn't all the fonts won't support it. So what are all the fonts? You can basically use any font from the internet. For now, to change the font, what we can do is introduce another property which is called the font family. Right. So Anand, can you just do that to show what all fonts are available?
Yeah, just a sec. So these are, you can see the fonts that it suggests. Uh, okay, I thought this might confuse a few people. So we can just change this. It's confusing people, just the
Yeah.
class names.
Yeah. So let me just say P1 and I'll name this P2.
Yeah. So these are class names.
So
So because
yeah,
he has
Gautam, what
not,
was happening? Yeah,
so
sorry.
because he has not
Gautam, what?
specified like a P over here, all elements with these classes, regardless of whatever their tag is, will get selected. Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Ishit, you
So
can
now
go
you
ahead.
can show the font family.
Yeah. So these are the autocomplete font families available that are installed on my like that are generally installed through all web browsers actually. So these are available by default. You can use anything from the system as well. So which one do you want to use? Sans serif?
Uh, yeah, just sans serif is fine. Sans serif is supported by all the browsers. Now, what is serif exactly? Now, if you can see the text there, can you zoom in, Anna,
Just a sec.
on the web? Yeah. So you can see the T and the H. If you can notice, the H on the top has a little hat of sorts, which is called serif. Right. Now we are in the P2, we are giving sans serif. Sans means no. So we're basically defining it to be no serif. So you can see in the H below, there is no hat. This is just an example of one font. So now as time is running out, we'll show how to actually get more fonts tomorrow.
Just one thing. So Mehta mentioned that it might be going a bit fast for him. So
Mhm.
there, we want everybody to work at your own pace. This session, the video recording will be available. We'll upload it as soon as possible. That's why we want you not to code it right with us. That's why we don't like. That's why we did not say that it's a code along sort. You can work at your own pace. We just want you guys to understand what's happening with us so that you can ask questions and we can help you with the doubts. And then you can practice on your own. Right. So you will have to practice on your own.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. For what everything that we did today, we just want you to go through the tags and try out whatever you want, different text, different stylings, different classes, and you can obviously reach out to us if you have any doubts.
हम्म. uh, if you मतलब yeah इसलिए last का ज़्यादा समझ नहीं आया, you did not understand a little at the end I guess. You can go through the video when we upload it, just the last part again. Just try to understand the stuff. So Ishit, you want to give a summary of everything we did?
Yeah,
So
sure.
if
I
you go
mean,
to the
we can
agenda,
just show the agenda actually. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. So first we covered what exactly is web development, what we'll do, the difference between a client development and the server-side development. So the client-side code and development is called the front end, and the server-side development is called back end. Right. So what's front end? Front end is basically the structure, the look and feel of your website. The back end is the management of data and services of your website. Then we went over what exactly is XML, which is, yeah, extensive markup language, and how HTML is a special case of XML made exclusively for websites, which is obviously hypertext markup language. Then we introduced CSS. Sorry. Then we introduced CSS, the form which is cascading style sheets, which defines the style sheet, the styling of your HTML. Right. Then we just differentiated a bit between what are properties and what are attributes. Then we came over to our index.html file. We showed what are the different tags, what is doc type, what is HTML, head tag, and the body tag, and how these meta tags define your website. The title is the title for your web page, right? Then we introduced these specific tags, div, span, paragraph text, and anchor tags. Like div is a division of a division section of your website. A span is just an element which has the default display of inline. An anchor is a link tag which if you press on a anchor tag, it takes you to the specific link. Then we actually side by side we were also introducing different style properties like background, height, width, and color, and font size, font weight, right? And we also introduced what are classes, what are IDs, and what exactly is meant by CSS selectors.
Right, that's actually a lot we covered. So we'll add that to the agenda as well. So we covered the classes, IDs, and selectors as well. Not in great detail, I agree, but
Yeah.
still, like enough to get started.
Yeah.
Uh,
No,
any
in detail will obviously be done when we actually code the anything that you want.
Yeah, and you can contact us as well. So since we'll upload this, I'm adding the contact details over here of both of us. So my email is going to be ab342, and my number is going to be, I'm putting my number over here as well. Ishit can add his details.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Wait, is that 10? I think it's more.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So those are our details. So we'll upload all these files so you can have a look at the agenda, and we'll update the agenda since we covered a bit more stuff than we planned. And yeah, we'll send you guys the GitHub link and everything. So this was it for the first session. And can we share the queries on the WhatsApp group? Yeah, sure. You can share the queries on the WhatsApp group. We'll help
Yeah,
you over
obviously.
there as well. So yeah, that was it for this first session. Thank you guys for attending. Okay, we'll address all the other general queries in the WhatsApp session. WhatsApp. And in the next session, we'll move on forward with creating what we actually wanted to create. So I'll leave you guys with this, what we were gonna do. Okay, sorry, not this, news.google.com. So we will be creating something of this sort, and we'll be displaying actual real news over there. So do join us in the sessions to come. So thank you guys. Bye bye. So Ananta, Nishit.
Thank you so much.
Sure. No problem, guys. हाँ जी चलो, we'll see you guys tomorrow then. Bye bye.
Bye.
So Ishit, I think we can leave as well. We'll address the queries on WhatsApp.
Yeah, sure. So, right, just remember that tomorrow's session is from 8 to 9. Only the first session was supposed to be 7:30.
Right.